We live in interesting times. Today's stories. 350,000 protesters flood Barcelona for a separatist freedom rally. Hong Kong doctors and nurses rally against police violence.
Have the right to see doctors and a nurse.
Turkey says the German plan for Syria's safe zone is, I quote, unrealistic.
Ve de yerinden edilmiş insanların gönüllü...
World Bank boss says small businesses is key to revive the global slump.
A global financial crisis, so there was going...
The United Nations Secretary General on global protests, Bolivian elections, and the situation in Syria.
And political establishments and rising threats.
San Jose mayor warns of power cuts as California fires spread.
Be about 98,000 residents and 1,900 businesses.
Tick and Tick Branch 10 fires burn homes and close down freeways in Southern California.
The fire reminds everyone to avoid these areas as much as possible.
Urging a tougher stand on China, Vice President Mike Pence blasts the NBA.
We urge you to stay on the path of non-violent protest.
Plus for EBC Sports, fans and players chime in on the anticipated matchup between the NBA Los Angeles team.
I believe the offseason moves made by both teams, it was almost like a chess move.
This is Eagle News coming to you from Washington, D.C., bringing you stories from around the globe. I'm Ace Ramirez. Around 350,000 people rallied in downtown Barcelona Saturday, turning the streets into a sea of independence flags in the latest mass protest against Spain's jailing of 9 separatist leaders. The turnout figure was given by the local police as vast crowds packed into a wide avenue running between the waterfront and the city's towering Sagrada Familia Basilica, which was once again closed to visitors. Catalonia has been gripped by unrest since the October 14 Supreme Court verdict, which unleashed a wave of huge demonstrations that quickly turned violent, with angry protesters hurling rocks and Molotov cocktails at riot police, who hit back with tear gas, foam rounds, and rubber bullets. The crisis began 2 years ago when the region staged a banned referendum on October 1st that was marred by police violence, then issued a short-lived declaration of independence, triggering Spain's worst political crisis in decades. Saturday's rally was called by the ANC and Omnium Cultural the region's 2 biggest grassroots pro-independence groups that have organized some of the largest separatist protests in recent years. The marching down the spacious boulevard, demonstrators held up banners reading, "We won't give in," and chanting, "October 1, we won't forgive, we won't forget." Catalans remain sharply divided over the question of separating from Spain, with a September poll showing 44% in favor but 48.3% against. The violent protests over the verdict have only deepened that division. The violence eased off last week, although the protests continued, with thousands of flag-waving students marching peacefully through the city on Friday evening. Catalan health officials say more than 600 people have been injured so far in the protests, among them 367 civilians, 4 of whom lost an eye, with government figures showing 289 police were also hurt. Earlier on Saturday, thousands rallied in Madrid in defense of Spain's unity at a demonstration called by the far-right Vox party, which has taken a very tough line on Catalan separatism and wants all regional pro-independence parties banned. Although the faction only entered parliament in April, Polls indicate it might become the third largest party following the November 10 election. On Sunday, activists from Catalan Civil Society, or SCC, will hold a counter-demonstration by those who want the region to remain part of Spain and who want the protest violence to end. In Hong Kong, thousands joined medical professionals in a rally calling for a stop to police violence against pro-democracy activists and frontline medics and respect on the protesters' rights to medical treatment.
And today's assembly is about the medical exam. So as a Chinese medicine practitioner, I think we need to take the notice of the police for the violence and the tear gas and the toxic of tear gas. And that can hurt not only the people and the environment.
They also want to have the rights, escape the fear to have the rights to see doctors and the nurse. But every time they go to hospital, they will arrest. So no students and teenagers willing to go to the public hospital.
For me, I guess this would be a long-term event because it won't end easily. Because what we are demanding, the 5 demands, and the government doesn't seem to be accepting it. So people still need to fight for it.
Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu earlier Saturday said a German suggestion for an international force to establish a safe zone in northern Syria was not realistic. Speaking at a press conference in Ankara alongside his German counterpart Heiko Maas, Cavusoglu said, and I quote, "At this point we don't find it really realistic."
Mültecilerin, göçmenlerin ve de yerinden edilmiş insanların gönüllülük esasıyla güvenli bir şekilde buralara dönmesi söz konusu. Bunlara katkı sağlamak isteyen varsa biz buna varırız. Fakat burada askeri bir güvenlik bölge oluşturma konusu bu Türkiye'nin tek başına verebileceği bir cevap da değil ama gerçekçi de değil.
Überall wird uns gesagt, es sei kein realistischer Vorschlag. Deshalb haben wir die Zeit genutzt, uns mit den Themen auseinanderzusetzen, die wichtig sind für die Menschen in Syrien jetzt.
Earlier this week, German Defense Minister Annegret Kramp-Karrenbauer suggested a security zone could allow international forces, including European troops, to resume the fight against IS as well as to stabilize the region. Maas also appeared to pour cold water on Kramp-Karrenbauer's idea, saying that he and Cavusoglu, and I quote, had no time for issues of a theoretical nature because the people in Syria don't have time for theoretical debates. Maas added, and I quote, "We are told by everyone that this is not a realistic proposal." Maas represents Merkel's junior center-left coalition partners, the SPD, while Kramp-Karrenbauer is leader of the Chancellor's conservative CDU party. The German government has been sharply divided over Kramp-Karrenbauer's plan. The commander of Kurdish forces in Syria has welcomed the plan, as has the U.S., but so far it has gained little further traction and few details are available.
Handshake photo.
World Bank President David Malpass urged countries to do more to help small businesses flourish as the global economy grows at its slowest pace since the 2008 financial crisis. Let's take a look.
We are delighted, of course, to have the World Bank President, David Malpass, with us here.
one part of that is the recovery from the 2008 global financial crisis. So there was going to be some time taken on that. I think also there is the challenge of from a trade sense that we've seen in recent years of how do you expand global trade volumes. And a third factor, and this is one that I've talked about some, is the challenge of growth in the developed countries. Europe in particular has not had growth that penetrates to, for example, median income. So there's been a concentration of benefits at the upper end that is challenging. Looking around the world, one of the most valuable areas of progress is when small businesses grow, when they form and grow. And so we can look around the world and see that in quite a few parts of the world, there's not enough progress in that area. Still not much credit going to small businesses, and those are areas that governments can work on to improve.
When we come back, the UN Secretary General on global protests, Bolivian elections, and the situation in Syria. San Jose mayor warns of power cuts as California fires spread. Tick and Tick Branch 10 fires burn homes and close down freeways in Southern California. Urging a tougher stand on China, Vice President Mike Pence blasts the NBA. Eagle News will return in a moment. Stay tuned. Welcome back. This is Eagle News coming to you from Washington, D.C. I'm Mace Ramirez. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres discussed the surge in protests around the world, urging governments and security forces to, I quote, act with restraint, while calling on protesters to demonstrate peacefully.
All right, Secretary General will make some opening.
It is clear that there is a growing deficit of trust between people and political establishments and rising threats to the social contract. And the world is also wrestling with the negative impacts of globalization and new technologies, which have increased inequalities within societies. Even where people are not protesting, they are hurting and want to be heard. Governments have an obligation to uphold the freedoms of expression and peaceful assembly and to safeguard civic space. Security forces must act with maximum restraint in conformity with international law. And I call on protesters to follow the examples of Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. and other champions of nonviolent change. There can be no excuse for violence from any quarter. The OEA and the government have confirmed to us that there will be an audit done by the Organization of American States. We fully support that audit, and we are at the disposal of the Organization of American States if they will need any kind of expertise that we can provide. I appeal at the same time to both government and opposition to keep the maximum restraint, and I hope that this initiative will hopefully lead to a positive conclusion. It is clear to me that what has happened in northern Syria shows that it's time to start seriously discussing the end game. And if that is the case, the political process became more important than ever, and our total commitment now is to make sure that the Constitutional Committee will start its work in Geneva as a first step for a political solution that hopefully will lead to the end of this tragic chapter in the life of the Syrian people.
In other news, Officials in San Jose, California, warned residents of a potential power shut-off as heavy winds threatened to fan wildfires across the north of the state.
PG&E has alerted city and county officials about the potential for a public safety power shutdown starting late tonight in parts of our eastern foothills and southern parts of our city. We expect, based on the PG&E estimates of the number of customers that will be affected, it would be about 98,000 residents and 1,900 businesses that could potentially be impacted by this shutdown. This, of course, is due to projections of high winds and low humidity and significant heat that's forecast to impact the relevant areas of Santa Clara County beginning on Saturday evening, that is tonight, through Monday afternoon. We believe that although the shutoffs are projected to be much shorter, everyone should be prepared for an extended shutoff. That is the worst case scenario. That could be 5 to 7 days if they are not able to restore power right away due to challenges with inspection or with changes in weather.
Californian officials warned Saturday that extreme wind conditions were set to fan wildfires across the north of the state as residents were ordered to evacuate and millions faced power cuts. About 50,000 people were ordered to flee their homes in Sonoma County, north of San Francisco, as the Kincaid fire spread to cover 25,455 acres after breaking out on Wednesday. The blaze, which is burning in remote steep terrain, threatens 23,500 structures and had already forced the evacuation of the small community of Geyserville and nearby vineyard operations. California's largest utility, Pacific Gas and Electric Company, said it expected to cut off power to 940,000 customers, a precautionary shutdown that local media reported would affect about 2 million people. PG&E said, and I quote, "The weather event could be the most powerful in California in decades, with dry northeast winds predicted to gust up to 70 miles per hour. PG&E will need to turn off power for safety several hours before the potentially damaging winds arrive. Winds of this magnitude pose a higher risk of damage and sparks on the electric system and rapid wildfire spread. According to California Department of Forestry and Protection, about 2,000 firefighters battled the Kincaid fire, which is only 10% contained." Meanwhile, in Southern California, Tick and Tick Branch 10 fires burned homes Thursday and closed down freeways. Here's a look back with Eagle News correspondent Alan Basalyahe.
Quick-moving brush fires in Southern California are once again threatening homes, forcing evacuations, and shutting down portions of freeways. This time, high winds are feeding flames in the Santa Clarita Valley, located about 30 miles north of Los Angeles. At this time, 2 fires have been reported. The first at around 1:45 p.m. Thursday in the eastern part of Santa Clarita Valley, called the Tick Fire, affecting the Canyon Country area and burning over 3,000 acres, with structures reported as being burned. In Castaic, about 10 miles west of Canyon Country, another blaze labeled the Tick Branch 10 fire along the 5 freeway has closed the northbound 5 freeway near Castaic. Acreage burned is estimated at 10 acres, but that number can certainly rise at any moment. LA County Fire reminds everyone to avoid these areas as much as possible. But for residents already in these neighborhoods, they are reminded to be on high alert and to be ready to leave at a moment's notice. In Santa Clarita, this is Alan Basalyahe, Eagle News. I'm 1 with 25.
U.S. Vice President Mike Pence on Thursday sharply denounced the NBA for not speaking out more forcefully on China, as he vowed support for Hong Kong's pro-democracy protesters. In a wide-ranging speech on U.S.-China relations, Pence slashed Beijing over its trading behavior, assertive military posture, and treatment of religious minorities, but also said the United States ultimately wanted, quote, constructive relationship.
to the millions in Hong Kong who have been peacefully demonstrating to protect your rights these past months, we stand with you. We are inspired by you, and we urge you to stay on the path of nonviolent protest. But know that you have the prayers and the admiration of millions of Americans.
Pence said, and I quote, "The United States does not seek confrontation with China. We seek a level playing field, open markets, fair trade, and respect for our values." He reserved his strongest language for the National Basketball Association, whose players have often clashed at home with President Donald Trump, as he waded forcefully into a row over whether corporate America has sacrificed values in their search for profit in China. Pence said, and I quote, "Some of the NBA's biggest players and owners who routinely exercise their freedom to criticize this country lose their voices when it comes to the freedoms and rights of other peoples." He said, and I quote, "Siding with the Chinese Communist Party and silencing free speech, the NBA is acting like a wholly owned subsidiary of that authoritarian regime." Pence hailed the mass movement that has erupted in Hong Kong, seeking to preserve the city's semi-autonomous status after Beijing attempted to allow extraditions into the mainland. Pence said, "We stand with you. We are inspired by you." The NBA controversy erupted when Houston Rockets general manager Daryl Morey tweeted, "Fight for freedom, stand with Hong Kong." China, a major basketball market, retaliated by ending sponsorships and canceling broadcasts of pre-season games held in the country. The NBA then dropped all media events of the tour, but later said it supported free speech. Pence's denunciation of players was likely a reference to Lakers superstar LeBron James, who took issue with Morey's tweet on Hong Kong. James has previously criticized Trump, accusing the stridently anti-immigration leader of unleashing hate in the United States. Pence also criticized footwear giant Nike for pulling Houston Rockets merchandise in China. Nike has a sponsorship deal with Colin Kaepernick, the American football quarterback who has been without a job after refusing to stand for the national anthem in a protest against racism.
Nike promotes itself as a so-called social justice champion. But when it comes to Hong Kong, it prefers checking its social conscience at the door.
When we come back, for EBC Sports, fans and players chime in on the anticipated matchup between the NBA Los Angeles teams. Eagle News will return shortly. You are watching Eagle News, broadcasting from Washington, D.C. I'm Ace Ramirez. The rivalry between the Clippers and the Lakers intensified exponentially this NBA season, with some of the league's biggest names all playing in the city of Los Angeles. EBC Sports correspondent Aljamin Santos was at the Staples Center to speak to fans and players during the much-anticipated game between these two LA teams. Let's take a look.
The return of the regular NBA season started off with the marquee matchup in the West Coast between the new Los Angeles Lakers and the new Los Angeles Clippers. The two franchises share the Staples Center, but the spotlight has always created a purple and gold shadow for the Clippers, who have yet to earn a banner themselves. Celebrities and fans from all over the country have flocked to the Staples Center to witness what some may consider the greatest rival this season.
They'll definitely compete. I mean, they got the top two, pretty much the top two-way players in the game. So they're definitely going to be able to feed off of each other. The game comes naturally. I believe the offseason moves made by both teams, it was almost like a chess move. Like, each one was positioning themselves with, it's like, okay, you got AD, well, go ahead and add a second small forward for you to guard. They didn't really pick up anyone. They, if anything, improved their current player like Montrezl Harrell. That guy's a dog. He's gonna be up there, and so. But I still feel like with that second acquisition, or that second chance for Dwight, he seems a lot more locked in. So I think he'll be able to neutralize that move as well. So we'll see.
You know, ever since Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, since the little Lob City movement was over with, like, you know, it's been kind of rocky. But now, yeah, we're finna get LeBron there. Look, King who? What? Oh no, it's about to go down, baby. It's about to go down. The conference finals over with. LA Clippers all day, baby. LA Clippers had to find something to do, and they found a solution. So now we back, baby. We made some good decisions. We got number 13, so we picked them up, and then we got the claw. So it's about to make some moves, baby. About to make some moves. LA, I mean, they in trouble either way it go, but more so because of the Clippers.
The Clippers' offseason decisions tonight proved to be in their favor. Since the acquisition of superstars Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, a new slate headed by the experience and strategy of head coach Doc Rivers. Players shared their insight on their team's performance following the matchup.
I mean, it's the first game. I didn't play too much of training camp just for, try to get me healthy, but it's just going to take time, arguments, miscues. Just the first game of the season, so it's going to take the season and, mistakes and, success to get us on the same page.
Because it was in our scouting report. It's something that we said we made a big emphasis on, and we made sure to limit them to one-touch shot, get the rebound, and go the other way. We made a big emphasis on that all week long, and the guards did a tremendous job on it, on coming over the back and helping us rebound and sandwich rebound, and, it played a big part of, our win tonight.
The landscape of the league has a new look, the powerhouses have shifted league-wide, and with all the offseason movements, new class of rookies, there may be more than a city rival to worry about for both teams. From the Staples Center in Los Angeles, I am Aljamain Santos for Eagle News, always one with 25.
Thank you, Aljamain. That is today's Eagle News. Join us again tomorrow for stories that matter to you. Visit our websites at eaglenews.net and eaglenewslive.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/eaglenews and on facebook.com/eaglenews. Thank you for watching. I'm Mace Ramirez, 1 with 25.